Am I audible to all of you? Just write in the chat box. Okay. So let's start today's class. I am sharing the PPT slides of today's class. Just a minute. So in the last class, we are solving this question of LL1 grammar or LL1 parsers. So basically, this is the question given to you. Here is the question, and here we already converted it into a suitable form. We are eliminating the left recursion in this grammar. So after eliminating the left recursion from this grammar, we can find the first and follow symbols of the non-terminals. So these are the first and follow symbols of these non-terminals. So after that, we are going to construct a parsing table of LL1 grammar. So this is the parsing table of LL1 grammar. Here you can see in the grammar there are the terminals present are A, B, like A, B, then E, small e is there, then I is there, then small t is there, and we need to include dollar sign as well. So we can fill the entries of the parsing table. So just concentrate on the first symbols only. So in order to fill the entries of S non-terminal, just concentrate on the first set. Here we have two symbols in the first set of non-terminal S. They are small I and small a. So you need to fill the entries in the parsing table corresponding to like first S versus A entry. So the production 2, which is S produces A, will be filled in this entry, and the corresponding to the S produces corresponding to S versus I entry, you need to fill the production which is starting from S. So the production which is starting from S is S produces I E T S S dash. So these are the two productions which are starting with S, and we can fill it in the proper places of the parsing table. Now we need to find out the the entries corresponding to S dash in the parsing table. So here you can see there are two terminals. There are two terminals in the first set corresponding to S dash. So first is E and the second is epsilon. So we need to fill the production corresponding to S dash versus E. So S dash versus E will be filled with the production S dash produces ES. So this is the third production. Now here epsilon is also occurred in the first set of S dash. So basically once the epsilon is occurred, so remember the rule number 2 of finding the follow sets. So once the epsilon is occurred in the first set, so we need to move to the follow of that corresponding non-terminal. So here the follow contains the two terminals dollar and E corresponding to S dash. So you need to fill the production S dash produces epsilon in these follow terminals. So you need to fill S dash versus E. So S dash versus E will be filled with this production S dash produces epsilon, and also S dash versus dollar will be filled with S dash produces epsilon. So these entries will be filled with the S dash produces dollar production. Now we need to find out the entries which is corresponding to E, which we need to fill in the parsing table. So concentrate on the first set of non-terminal E. So as you can see, only one symbol is there in the first set of E, which is B. So you need to fill the corresponding entry of E versus B with the production of E. So here the production of E is E produces B. So you need to fill E versus B entry with the production of E, which is E produces B. So that's how we can fill the parsing table of LL1 grammar. But here you can see in this parsing table corresponding to S dash, just write S dash versus E is filled with two. You can see here two productions are there which authors in the same cell. So this type of entry is not allowed in the case of LL1 grammar. So that's why this the S dash versus E entry is filled with two productions. So that's why this type of grammar is not considered to be LL1 grammar. So all of you understand this? This is the main concept. How we can determine whether a grammar is LL1 grammar or not. So once we find that a particular cell in the parsing table consists of two or more than two productions, that means that grammar is not considered to be LL1 grammar. So here in the S dash versus E entry of the parsing table, it consists of two productions. So that means this type of grammar is not LL1 grammar. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So moving to the next slide. These are some of the important points related to the LL1 grammar with respect to the parsing table. So the first point is the parsing table entries are single entries. So each location has not more than one entry. So this type of grammar is called as LL1 grammar. So basically each cell consists of not more than one entry of the table. So if there are more than one production in any cell, then the parsing table is not the LL1 grammar. What we already discussed in our previous slide. So the grammar given in example 1, which we already studied in our last class, is LL1 grammar, whereas the grammar given in example 2, which we studied in the previous slide, is not LL1 grammar. Just in the words we have written this. So this is the relationship of LL1 grammar with respect to the parsing table. So the parsing table is a useful method in order to check whether the grammar is LL1 or not. You just remember the key sentence that if any cell of the parsing table consists of two or more than two productions, then that grammar is not LL1. And if the parsing table consists of only one production within a cell, then that grammar is called as LL1 grammar. Right? So this is the concept. Now we are moving to the next slide. So these are the important steps for implementation of predictive parsers. So first step is, first you need to eliminate the left recursion. If the grammar contains the left recursion or left factoring or ambiguous grammar is there, then you need to just eliminate the left recursion or left factoring or ambiguous grammar. After that, the grammar is suitable for LL1 parser. Then after the elimination of these entries, you need to first find out the first and follow sets of all the non-terminals. So once you find out the first and follow set of all the non-terminals, then you can construct the predictive parsing table. So we already construct the predictive parsing table, and we already show how the parsing table will be constructed with the use of first and follow sets. After that, if we need to parse the given input string, then it can be parsed using stat and the parsing table. So in sometimes they are given that parse the given input string which is based on the LL1 parsing table. Then only then you can parse the given string with the use of stat and parsing table. So these are the steps you need to follow in order to find out the predictive parser or LL1 parsing table. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Just remember these steps. Whenever a grammar is given to you, first check whether the grammar uh, is whether the grammar consists of left recursion, left factoring, or ambiguous grammar. And if the grammar consists of these, then you need to first eliminate the left recursion, left factoring, or ambiguous grammar. After that, you will going to solve it, and after that, you need to find out the first and follow sets. So this is very important concept. First, you need to check whether the grammar contains the left recursion, left factoring, or or any ambiguous grammar is there or not, or ambiguity is in the grammar or not. So moving to the next slide. Now these are the assignment questions. Which are based on the predictive parsers. So these are the two questions which you've seen in this slide. So in the first question, in both of these questions, basically you need to find the first and follow sets of the given grammar. So these questions I will be create an assignment and will be pasted in your Doodle classroom code for compiler design. So you need to solve these questions till Monday. So you need to find the first and follow sets of these questions, and there is another question which is given in the next slide. So basically you need to also solve these three questions in the assignment. So this is the question. I am just reading this question so that you can understand what you need to do. So this is the grammar which is given to you. So first you need to find the first and follow sets of this grammar. Means all the non-terminals you need to solve for first and follow sets. Then construct LL1 parsing table for the grammar. Then you need to find the leftmost derivative of the string, which is given as AEBB. All are in the small letters AEBB. And lastly, you need to show if we add the production X produces BS in the grammar, then the grammar is no longer LL1. So you need to show this also. So this is the question which are these type of questions are basically asked in your exams, and the question will consist of 10 to 15 marks. So as this subject consists of 120 marks, so this type of question may be in your 8 mark question or in your 15 mark question. So there are four parts of the question, so you need to solve all the four parts in order to get the correct answer. So all of you understand this? Or there is any problem in understanding the question, just write in the chat box. Or all of you understand this question? So you need to solve this question and submit it in your Google Classroom code of compiler design till Monday. Just remember the last date. Okay. So that concludes the top-down parsers. So now we are moving to the bottom-up parsers. So just a minute, I am sharing the slides of bottom-up parsers. Just a minute. So as you can see on your screen that the second part of this unit is bottom-up parsers, and we are going to start the bottom-up parsers. So moving to the next slide. So basically the bottom-up parsers or is also known as shift-reduce parsers. And the bottom-up parsing is used to construct a parse tree for an input string. So basically, the method of parsing the bottom-up parser is construct a parse tree for an input string beginning at the leaves, basically the bottom. Here we start from the bottom and working towards the root, that is the top. So it is just the reverse process what we studied in the top down parser. In the top down parser we basically move from the root and moves towards the bottom, but in the bottom of parser we basically start with the bottom and then move towards the root. So here we start from the sentence and then apply production rules in reverse manner in order to reach the start symbol. So basically our aim is to reach the start symbol from the bottom or from the leaves. This terminology you already studied in your data structure and algorithm, that in the tree there is a root, then there are some internal nodes and there are leaves. So this terminology is basically used from the data structure and algorithm subject. So basically in bottom up parsing, the parsing starts with the input symbol and construct the parse tree up to the start symbol by tracing out the rightmost derivations of a string in reverse. So basically you need to remember this word because it it uh, it was asked many a times in the competitive exams that what is the method of moving in the bottom up parsers. So the method is rightmost derivation in reverse. Basically we need to move in the string with rightmost derivation in reverse. So in the case of top-down parser, the method of moving is leftmost derivation. But in this case, we are moving from rightmost derivation in reverse. So this is the introduction of bottom-up parser. So moving to the next slide, let us see this concept by solving an example. So moving to the next slide. So here you can see in this slide an example is given. You need to find the string id into id, and this is the grammar given to you. There are basically 5 productions in the grammar, and you need to find the or you need to parse the string which is given to you, which is id into id. So you need to follow these steps which are based on bottom up parsers. So basically first you need to draw what you need to find out. So basically id into id which you need to find out. Then in the step 2, this id can be replaced by, or so as you can see in the productions of the grammar, this id f produces id is the production. So basically id is derived from f. So basically you need to write id and then you need to write the f because f produces id. So this is the step 2. Sorry. Then you can see in the step 3 the third production, which is t produces f. So you need to write where the f will be parsed from. So as the production is t produces f, so basically the f can be derived with t. So you need to move that f is derived from t. So this is the third step. So basically our aim is to reach the start symbol in the bottom of parser. So here the start symbol is capital E. So you need to move to the start symbol. So as we are in the step number 3, so we reached at this point to capital T. So here you can see that in the step 4 also there is just a repetition of the step 3 is also in the step 4, but in the step 5 you can see that uh, there is one more id. So this more id is also can be derived from f produces id production. So you need to write also f here, and this f, now you can see that we are reaching at this position. Here we from the left string we reached at t, and from the right string we reached at f. So there is a production from which you can see the second production, which is t produces t into f, is the production by which there is a relation between t and f, which is t into f. So we need to write this relation from the second production t into f, and this production is derived with the from the t non-terminal. So you can write this. So at step 5, yeah, the parse trace look like this. Now from the t is derived from the e, as you can see from the first production. So you can just replace t with the e. So this you can see the parse tree from the step number 6. So this is how we are moving bottom up, like from the leaves to the root. So id is in the leaves and e is at the root, which is the top symbol. So by using this technique, we can solve the, or we can make the parse tree by using the bottom up parsing. All of you understand it? This is the step by step procedure how we can move from leaves to the root in order to find out the parse tree. So basically you need to follow the productions of the grammar, not that by any method you can move to the root. You need to follow the productions in order to find out the bottom up parsing. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box. This is the step by step procedure. Okay, so moving to the next slide. You need to also check our college YouTube channel, because all the lectures, all the recordings of these lectures are available in the college YouTube channel. I'm also I already shared you the link of finding my lectures of compiler design. So moving to the now, as you can see in this slide, there is a flow chart of the parsing. So basically, the parsers are basically divided into two classes. First is top-down parser, and the second is bottom-up parsers. So we already discussed the top-down parser and its classes like recursive descent parsers and the LL1 parsers. And now we are going to start the bottom up parser. So in the bottom up parser, it is also divided into two major categories. So first is LR parsers. This is the very lengthy topic, LR parsers, because in LR parser there are basically we need to study all the four types of parsers: LR0, SLR1, LALR1, and CLR1. This is the uh, most lengthy part of the parsing. And the second part is operator precedence parser. So this is the second part. So we are going to just start with the operator precedence parser, because basically in your midterm exam there are two units which are coming in your midterm exam, the unit 1 and unit 2. So basically if we are not completed the unit 2 till the midterm till your midterm exam starts, then whatever has been covered in the unit 2, that it will come to that point in your examinations. But unit 1 is for sure come in your examination. So as the LR parser is very lengthy, so we can study the LR parser later on, after we studied the operator precedence parser. So in today's class, we are going to start the operator precedence parser. Basically, just remember this diagram, because this diagram is very important in for theory point of view, and as far as your visualization is is concerned related to the parsers. So basically, it is divided into two major types: top down and bottom up parser, and both these categories are further divided into some more categories. So just remember that the operator precedence parser is basically a part of bottom up parsers. So moving to the next slide. So we are going to start the operator precedence parser. So as its name suggests, that operator precedence parser. So basically, so first we need to find out this parser is based on the operator precedence grammar. So basically, a grammar that is used to define mathematical operators. So we know that the mathematical operators are basically what type are plus, into, then minus, divide, and other forms like the mathematical operators we are using throughout from our school days. So basically, a grammar that is used to define mathematical operators is called operator grammar or operator precedence grammar. And you know that these operators are basically are having some precedences over each other. They are not of equal precedences. So basically, a grammar that satisfies the following two conditions is called the operator precedence grammar. And these two conditions are very much important, because whichever grammar follows these two conditions, it is said to be operator precedence grammar, and the grammar which do not follow these conditions are said to be that they are not operator precedence grammar. So the first condition is there exists no production rule which contains epsilon on its right hand side. Means epsilon will never occur on the right hand side of any production. And if there is a single production in your grammar which contains epsilon in the right hand side of that production, then that grammar is not considered to be operator precedence grammar. So the first rule is there exists no production rule which contains epsilon on its right hand side. The second rule is there exists no production rule which contains two non-terminals adjacent to each other on its right hand side. It means if you have a production like this, A produces BC, like B and C, then this grammar is not operator precedence, because there are two non-terminals which are B and C, which are adjacent to each other. Means they are close to each other. There exists no terminal which is separating or which is between the non-terminals. So these are the uh, two rules which decides whether the grammar is operator precedence grammar or not operator precedence grammar. So all of you understand these rules? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay, so just remember these two rules. So moving to the next slide. So here you can see in this slide, there are some examples given to you. The first example is given to us. There are three productions which starts from non-terminal E. So the productions are E produces, this is the first production, E produces E plus E. Then E produces E into E, which is the second production, and E produces ID, which is the third production. So as you can see, there is no epsilon in the right hand side of any of the production. So that means this grammar is operator precedence according to rule number 1. But you need to check also the rule number 2. So you need to check whether any of the production contains two adjacent non-terminals on the right hand side. So here you can see from the first production, E produces E plus E. So here between the two E's there is plus symbol, which is a terminal. So the two E's are not adjacent here. In the second production, you can also check that there is into symbol which is terminal between the two between the two E's. So and the third production is E produces ID. So that means all the productions of the grammar follow the rules or follow the two rules of the operator precedence grammar. That's why this grammar is operator precedence grammar. Now moving to the example number 2, you can check the example 2. Here you can see that S produces SAS. So here you can see that there are basically three non-terminals which are adjacent to each other. So that's why this grammar is not operator precedence grammar. Because of the rule number 2. Although rule number 1 is satisfied here, because here it does not contain epsilon on the right hand side, but rule number 2 does not satisfy here. That's why this grammar is not operator precedence grammar. Now we need to convert this grammar into operator precedence grammar. So just follow these steps. So as you can see, the production which are starting with A are the third and the fourth production of the grammar. So you need to replace the capital A in the production number A with the productions of capital A. So when you replace the A with the production of A, which is BSB, so this you can get, and once you replace the A with the small b, then you can get this. So as you can see now that between the two non-terminals there exists a terminal in this. Like these two small b's are there between the non-terminals, and this b is there between the non-terminal. And here also it follows in the productions which are starting with A also follows the operator precedence grammar. So now this grammar is operator precedence grammar. All of you understand it? How we convert a grammar which is not following the operator precedence grammar, how we can convert it into operator precedence grammar? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. By using this method, you can convert a grammar which is not operator precedence into a grammar which is operator precedence grammar. Okay, so moving to the next slide. Just remember the two rules, because those two rules are very important in order to find whether the grammar is operator precedence or not. There are some important points to be noted out in the operator precedence grammar. So basically these grammars apply to a small class of operator grammars. And the next point is operator precedence can only established between the terminals of the grammar. It ignores the non-terminals. So basically these grammars are basically the operator precedence table is between the terminal symbols, and here in that table non-terminals does not exist. Whether as we already studied that in the LL1 parsing table there exist non-terminals as well as terminals, but in the case of operator precedence grammar the table is made between the terminals itself, and here there is no need for non-terminals in the operator precedence parsing table. So just remember this concept. So the three important operator precedence relations are this type. Basically if we want to find a relationship between two terminals A and B, so there can be three type of relationship. Either A is greater than B, or A is lesser than B, or A is equal to B. So according to the first condition, if A is greater than B, it means that A is having higher precedence than the terminal B. And the second condition is A is less than B. It means the terminal A has lower precedence than the terminal B. And if A equal to B, it means that the terminal A and B both have the same precedence. So these are the three operator precedence relation which you need to be remembered. Either the two basically the relationship will be in the two terminals. So either the first terminal is greater than the second terminal, or either the first terminal is less than the second terminal, or the first terminal is equal to the second terminal. So moving to the next slide. So so what are the advantages and disadvantages of operator precedence grammar? So there are some advantages of operator precedence grammar. So they are, the implementation is very easy and simple. The second advantage is the parser is quite powerful for expressions in programming languages. Uh, so this type of parser is powerful for expression. So because in this case we need to find the relationship between operators, and expression is built up from the operator. So this is very powerful parser if we need to use expressions in the programming languages. So this type of parser is very simple to debug, and it can resolve ambiguity from the ambiguous grammar. So this is very important point. So by which type of parser, they sometimes asked in the objective examination that which type of parser uh, is better in order to resolve the ambiguity from the ambiguous grammar. So operator precedence parser is the parser which resolves the ambiguity from the ambiguous grammar. So these are the advantages of operator precedence grammar. So there exist some disadvantages also of operator precedence grammar. So the first disadvantage is the handling of tokens known to have two different precedences become difficult. So basically, it means that uh, there is a operator which in one sequence behaves like it is greater than the other, but in the other sequence it will behave like it is lesser than the other operator. So we need to handle, so handling of such type of token or such type of operator is difficult in the case of operator precedence parser. The second disadvantage is only small class of grammars can be parsed using this parser. So this parser is not very efficient in parsing a large class of grammars, because in order to parse the grammar you need to first check that whether that grammar is basically follows the rule of the operator precedence grammar or not. So basically this grammar is considered to be applicable to only a small class of grammars. The third point is, the third disadvantage is this: it is difficult to handle operators like minus, uh, which can be either unary or binary and hence have different precedences. So as you know that the minus sign is having two type of uh, two type of operations in it. If we have the like -5, then it is used as the unary operator, and if we have the two operands like 3 minus 2, then it will behave like a binary operator. So such type of operator like minus is very difficult to handle, because it is very difficult for the parser to find out whether it whether minus is having a unary operator or minus is having a binary operator. So these are the some of the disadvantages of operator precedence parser. All of you understand it? Just write in the chat box so that we can move further. Okay. So I am going to share this slide, the recording of this video lecture today, so you can refer the college YouTube channel. So moving to the next slide. So only 5 minutes are remaining. So just we need just we complete this. So after operator precedence grammar, the topic is operator precedence parser. So basically, a parser that reads and understands an operator precedence grammar is called as operator precedence parser. So basically, the operator precedence parser needs to understand the operator precedence grammar. So in operator precedence parsing, there exist two conditions. So firstly, we define precedence relations between every pair of terminal symbols. It means every pair of terminal symbol we need to define a relation between the terminals between the terminal symbols. And secondly, we construct an operator precedence table. So these are the two conditions, or these are the two things we need to follow in the operator precedence parsing. And the important thing is operator precedence parsing or operator precedence parser is the parser which needs to understand the operator precedence grammar. So moving to the next slide. So first is defining precedence relations. So the precedence relation is basically defined by using the following rules. So according to the rule number 1, as we already discussed, that there exist three type of relations between the two terminals. Either the first terminal is less than the second terminal, which is this. Either it is equal to the second terminal, which is A equal to B, and either the first terminal uh, is greater than the second terminal, which is A is greater than B. So according to rule number 1, there exist three conditions, and according to rule number 2, first point is an identifier is always given higher precedence than any other symbol. It means identifier means ID. So ID is having always higher precedence than any of the operators. Like ID is greater than plus, into, divide, minus. So basically, ID is always greater than or having higher precedence than any other symbol. And the second point of rule number 2 is dollar symbol is always given the lowest precedence, and just the reverse in case of dollar. So dollar is given lowest precedence uh, while it is related to any of the terminal symbol. So this can be followed. And according to rule number 3, if two operators have the same precedence, then we go by checking their associativity. So these are the three rules in defining the precedence relationship. So all of you understand it? Just write in the chat box. Okay. So that's it for today's class, and we will going to discuss the next topic of operator precedence grammar in the next class. So thank you very much. Now you can leave this meeting because only 1 minute is remaining.